My garage was our first office. Mark and I built Cognito from nothing. It was more than a company to me. It was my life's work, my entire future. Every dollar I had went into our vision. We worked endless nights driven by a shared dream. Mark was more than a co-founder. He was like a brother to me. Cognito grew fast. Our AI was revolutionary, changing how people interacted with technology. We were on top of the world just as we planned. Then came the news. A life-threatening illness hit me hard suddenly. I needed immediate, extensive medical leave. My world shifted in an instant. I left everything to Mark. He promised to keep our vision alive. I trusted him completely with our company, with my future. He was family. Weeks turned into months of recovery. I was getting stronger slowly. Then the email arrived, a cold, official message in my inbox. My heart sank. It said I was out, ousted, fabricated board votes, they claimed. My shares, the foundation of my life savings, were diluted to nothing. It was a shock. Mark's name was on the documents repeatedly. My best man, my co-founder, the man I trusted more than anyone, I couldn't reconcile it. This was not a mistake. It was a calculated plan. Corporate piracy, a complete takeover. He had stolen everything I had built, everything I believed in. Weakened, yes, but not broken. I would uncover every truth. Justice would be served and my professional legacy reclaimed. This was far from over. My body still ached from the long recovery. The news of my ouster settled deep, a heavy weight in my chest. I felt isolated, vulnerable, and profoundly betrayed by someone I considered family. The initial shock gave way to a cold, analytical resolve. I knew I needed to understand. My mind, though tired, began to sift through the fragments of information I had received. This was more than just a setback. I started reviewing the official communications from Cognito's legal team. They spoke of a necessary corporate restructuring. The language was precise, almost too perfect, detailing my removal and share dilution. One detail immediately caught my attention. A board meeting date was listed for a time I knew Mark, and several key board members were at an industry conference. It was a small, crucial inconsistency. This was not a simple oversight. I reached out to a few former colleagues trying to get clarity. Their responses were guarded, almost evasive. They offered vague apologies, citing company policy or busy schedules. Their distance spoke volumes. An industry contact, usually quite open, gave a non-committal explanation about my departure. He mentioned whispers of performance issues and unforeseen complications. It confirmed my suspicion of a carefully crafted narrative. My mind drifted back to conversations with Mark before my leave. I started replaying them, searching for hidden meanings. Casual remarks, seemingly innocuous questions, now felt like calculated probes. I remembered a specific decision Mark pushed for, shifting some of my project responsibilities just weeks before my illness. At the time, I saw it as proactive. Now it felt like premeditated groundwork for my removal. This was not a reaction to my illness. This was a meticulously planned scheme executed with cold precision. The scale of the deception began to reveal itself. Mark had been playing a long game. My physical weakness was fading, replaced by an unwavering resolve. This quest for understanding had become a quest for professional justice. I would uncover every layer of his deception. No matter the cost, this was my new project. My body still needed rest, but my mind refused to quiet. I knew I had to act even from a distance. I began sending discreet messages to a few trusted contacts, carefully framing my inquiries. Leveraging my residual access to certain company systems was a delicate move. I still had a few old backdoors, digital keys I had built long ago. They offered a glimpse into recent changes. The first discovery hit me hard. Key proprietary algorithms, my intellectual property, were no longer linked to my name. They had been quietly reassigned within the system. Further digging revealed the extent. Many of my core contributions, the very foundation of our AI, had been recoded or attributed to Mark. My legacy was systematically being erased. I then turned to financial records. Anomalies quickly surfaced in the reports from my medical leave period. Certain expenditures and revenue projections seemed artificially inflated. Investor reports were no different. They painted a picture of Mark as the sole visionary, minimizing my role entirely. It was a deliberate attempt to inflate his value and diminish mine. Whispers from my network confirmed my fears. There was a systematic campaign underway. My name was being tarnished, my reputation undermined by carefully placed rumors. The narrative painted me as unreliable, even mentally unstable. It was designed to justify my removal, to make my ouster seem like a necessary business decision. This solidified Mark's control. This was not opportunistic. This was a meticulously planned corporate espionage. Mark had premeditated this betrayal, using my illness as his window. The depth of it was shocking. The initial shock gave way to a cold, unwavering resolve. Every piece of evidence fueled my determination. I would ensure professional justice. This was no longer just about recovery, it was about full vindication. The evidence I had gathered was significant. It confirmed Mark's calculated deception, but I knew its presentation required a specific expertise. This was no ordinary dispute, it was a complex corporate maneuver. I needed a legal mind as sharp as Mark's, but one committed to justice. I spent days researching, making discreet inquiries through my network. Trust was paramount in this sensitive situation. My first meeting was with Attorney Davies. He was known for his quiet efficiency and his sharp understanding of corporate governance. I laid out my findings, watching his expression carefully. He listened intently, asking precise questions. His initial assessment confirmed my suspicions. This was a meticulously planned corporate piracy. We would begin our meticulous analysis immediately. Attorney Davies' team began sifting through the manipulated legal documents. The fabricated board votes were a key piece. He cross-referenced dates and attendees, uncovering glaring inconsistencies. We found altered corporate bylaws quietly amended during my leave. These changes gave Mark sweeping powers, effectively nullifying my co-founder rights. It was a complete legal takeover. His team also uncovered a pattern of strategic communication. Emails, internal memos, and investor updates were designed to isolate me. They painted a false narrative of my disengagement. The extent of Mark's ruthlessness became chillingly clear. He had not just taken advantage of my illness. He had engineered my vulnerability, using my trust as a weapon. Every step was calculated. My profound hurt and anger began to transform. It was no longer a raw emotion. It was a focused energy fueling my resolve for professional vindication. Mark had underestimated me. This was more than just reclaiming my legacy. It was about exposing a profound breach of corporate ethics. My strategic plan for his professional consequences was now taking definitive shape. Attorney Davies and I finalized our approach. We built a detailed, multi-pronged strategy. It focused on intellectual property infringements and breaches of fiduciary duty. We also targeted corporate fraud. My stolen designs and algorithms were central to Cognito's current success. We identified specific vulnerabilities there. Mark had built their new features directly on my foundational work. This was a critical point of exposure for him. The breaches of fiduciary duty were also clear. Mark had prioritized his own gain over the company's and my co-founder rights. His actions were a direct violation of trust and legal obligations. We had undeniable proof. Corporate fraud formed another pillar of our case. The manipulated board votes and diluted shares were illegal. His systematic smear campaign against me was part of this larger scheme. It was all meticulously documented. I knew Cognito's AI architecture better than anyone. I began to identify specific points of reliance. Their latest product iterations were heavily dependent on my core intellectual property. This reliance was their weakness. My team and I prepared to assert my true ownership. We compiled extensive evidence of my original contributions. Every line of code, every design document, every patent application was ready. The truth would be undeniable. Deep within Cognito's AI, I had embedded fail-safe protocols. These were dormant, hidden from casual view. I began the careful process of reactivating them. It was a covert operation known only to me. These protocols were designed to verify ownership. They would expose any unauthorized modifications or reattributions. When activated, they would flag the stolen components. The system would then confirm my original authorship. I carefully selected a small, trusted circle. These were former colleagues and industry contacts. I discreetly shared fragmented information with them. They would become my silent allies, ready when the time was right. I was now poised to initiate the first phase. This battle for professional justice would be fought with intellect. Precision, not aggression, would be our weapon. Mark's downfall was meticulously planned. My legal team filed the initial motions today. This was the first official move in our strategy. It felt like a complex chess game had finally begun. I felt a surge of quiet satisfaction. The document specifically targeted my intellectual property rights. They highlighted my original designs and algorithms. Mark's legal team would now have to respond to these claims. My ownership was undeniable. We also questioned the legitimacy of specific board decisions. These were made during my medical leave. Mark's actions lacked proper oversight and transparency. The timing of these votes was highly suspicious. Word of our legal filing spread quickly within Cognito. I knew it would cause a stir. The calm facade Mark had carefully built would now begin to crack. He could no longer ignore my existence. Mark's initial reaction was defensive, exactly as I had anticipated. He issued internal memos to his staff. These communications tried to downplay the legal challenges, but the message was clear. I was actively fighting back. His hasty responses began to reveal more than he intended. He tried to justify past actions and decisions. In doing so, he inadvertently exposed his own machinations. Each defensive move was a strategic trap for him. Meanwhile, my activated fail-safes were doing their work. They subtly flagged inconsistencies within the AI core systems. Data integrity issues began to surface silently. It was a digital internal alarm going off. Key technical staff at Cognito started noticing these anomalies. They saw unexpected performance glitches and data discrepancies. Questions began circulating among the engineers. They wondered what was truly happening behind the scenes. Rumors of internal disputes and questionable corporate governance reached the investors. Controlled lakes had done their job effectively. Investor confidence began to waver. The market reacted to the growing uncertainty surrounding Cognito. Mark would soon realize the full extent of my plan. The sick man he thought he had vanquished was actively fighting. His carefully constructed empire was now showing deep and undeniable cracks. His downfall was now in motion. The legal motions intensified. A court order for a full corporate audit of Cognito was issued. This was a critical step in our plan. It would uncover every financial irregularity. An independent investigation began simultaneously. It focused on Cognito's leadership and operational decisions. Every aspect of Mark's tenure was now under scrutiny. Transparency was our objective. My legal team presented our key findings. We showed irrefutable evidence of fabricated board minutes. The dates and attendee lists were clearly manipulated. Mark's deception was now undeniable. We then exposed the falsified signatures on critical documents. My own signature had been expertly forged. This was a clear act of corporate fraud. We also showed how my contributions were systematically erased. The full extent of Mark's corporate espionage became clear. His abuse of authority was meticulously detailed. The board and key investors received comprehensive reports. They could no longer ignore the truth. News of the investigation quickly spread. The wider tech community started discussing Cognito's troubles. Mark's carefully crafted image began to crumble. His professional reputation was now at risk. Internal dissent grew rapidly within Cognito. Employees realized the truth about my ouster. They saw Mark's ruthless takeover for what it was. Morale plummeted and trust eroded. Operational efficiency suffered greatly. Key projects stalled as uncertainty took hold. Many talented individuals began looking for new opportunities. Cognito was facing a significant internal crisis. Mark faced intense scrutiny from all sides. His credibility was shattered. He tried to defend himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. His carefully built empire was collapsing around him. Cognito's future now hung precariously in the balance. This was a direct consequence of Mark's avarice and betrayal. Professional justice was unfolding exactly as I had planned. The next steps would be decisive. The final board meeting concluded. The unanimous vote confirmed Mark's immediate removal from Cognito. His professional career, once promising, was now irrevocably over. This was the consequence of his actions. He faced severe legal repercussions for corporate fraud and intellectual property theft. The public exposure of his deception led to complete professional ostracization. His downfall was swift and absolute. My intellectual property, my original contributions, and my co-founder status were officially restored. The legal documents clearly stated my rightful place. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted. The board issued a public statement. They acknowledged the grave injustice I had endured. Their words confirmed the truth, clearing my name completely. It was a formal vindication. Cognito began a significant restructuring. The changes were deep and necessary. It was a complete overhaul designed to purge Mark's corrupt influence entirely. The company needed to heal. New leadership committed to ethical innovation stepped forward. We focused on rebuilding trust within the company and with our investors. The foundation was being reset stronger than before. I was fully recovered now, both physically and professionally. The ordeal had tested me, but I emerged stronger. My vindication was complete. My name and legacy were clear. I chose to guide Cognito's future, not as CEO, but from a strategic advisory position. My vision for the company remained, now unburdened by past betrayals. I would ensure its true path. My original vision for Cognito would thrive. The AI we built was revolutionary, and it would continue to change the world. This time, it would do so with integrity and purpose. Our future was bright. I had not just survived the betrayal, I had emerged stronger. My legacy was reclaimed, justice ensured, and my future secured. Mark had made his choice, and I had delivered the consequences. The story was now complete.